All right, welcome back to the Ottawa studios of Inside My Canoe Head. I am your host, Dr. D. Today, economic preparedness. You're into 2025. It's a new year. Life's going to look a little different shortly with a new American government, etc. It's going to have worldwide impact. How is your economic preparedness set up for success? Today, that's what we're going to talk about. So sit back, grab yourself your favorite beverage, my friends. Let's get at her. All right, welcome back, and thanks again for joining us here at Inside My Canoe Head. Listen, we appreciate all of the feedback we get at www.insidemycanoehead.ca. Everything you need to know is over there, including the ability to buy me a hot cup of wonderful coffee. Thanks again for joining us. Keep your feedback coming. Good, bad, or indifferent, we love to have it. Now, jumping right in with 2 feet, economic preparedness, right? It's often what we use on this program and what I use in my writing and the lectures that I give as the gateway. I call it the gateway drug of preparedness. The reason being is traditionally preparedness has been framed as something to do with natural disasters, right? So when you think of the spectrum of disasters that could happen to you, when we teach preparedness here at Preparedness Labs Incorporated and Inside My Canoe Head, we teach it along a spectrum, right? There's probably 700 different things that could happen to you where you live, and it's really impossible, and we would never encourage people to have hazard-specific or problem-specific plans because you get so many of them, it becomes apathetic and agnostic, and people just avoidance. They just walk away and don't do anything about preparedness if you try to have a flood plan and a fire plan and this plan and that plan. It doesn't make any sense. So we look at preparedness across a spectrum for disasters, and it starts with the most likely but least influential, which we categorize as a 3 or 4 day power outage. And on the other end is the most impactful and the least likely to happen, which is a short notice evacuation of your residence. That is the either end of the spectrum. If you have strong, robust preparedness plans to deal with those two eventualities, then by default and definition, you are going to be reasonably well prepared to navigate anything in the middle. That is our offering. That is our construct here. But again, that's a natural disaster focus that only looks at what we refer to as no more than 20% of what preparedness is about, right? Preparedness is a philosophy, a lifestyle, a lens through which you look at life. So we often use economic preparedness as the gateway drug, as our way of opening that door to you and a lot of our listeners and our students to say, hey, preparedness is actually about all of your life and all aspects of your life and how to wrap everything about your life in a blanket of insulation against shocks and events that are beyond your control. Because as the Stoics say, you control very little of what happens in this world. So why not protect yourself to the greatest extent possible about dumb and idiotic decisions that other people make, whether it's your neighbor or the new president of the United States, it doesn't matter, right? People are going to do things that you disagree with that impact and influence you. Why not wrap that in a blanket of insulation? And so when we talk about our basic lesson planning, we always talk about the trifecta of preparedness plans. The third element of that trifecta, beyond your extended power outage and your evacuation, is you're fired. And what you're fired simply means is it's grounded in the question of what is your exact and specific plan when you get fired tomorrow or when your income ceases tomorrow morning. You go into work, and this has happened to family members where they work in a downtown office building. They're a white-collar worker, as a colloquial phrase. They walk in the morning. They've just finished working on the PowerPoint on the weekend. They're all ready to go. They got a great presentation plan, looking forward to the week, and they're met in the lobby by HR and security. They're brought into a side room. Security has all of their belongings in a banker box. Their desk has been cleared out. All of their permissions at work have been removed. And HR is there with your manager to talk about your severance package. It happens more than you would like to consider. Companies go under. Plants get closed. Businesses may burn down. a bazillion things that could happen, or you could just be a fool, but the vast majority of things happen to you, right? So you get fired not because you did something dumb, that would be justified firing and you can take that punch upside the head, but you get fired and your income ceases this morning. Maybe you're the only breadwinner in a family and all of a sudden your income stops, like it's done. What is your plan? The fact that you may not know the answer to that question means you have intentionally placed you and your family in a very difficult, precarious position, because everybody will lose the job they have. You'll get fired, you'll quit, you'll retire, you'll die. Everybody will lose the job they're in right now. Why not lose it on your time scale? And if not at a time of your choosing, why not be robustly ready to navigate that world when, because of actions beyond your control, you just lose your income? It's gone. What do you intend to do? And the idea behind economic preparedness starts there. It starts the conversation to say, okay, the first question we're going to talk about is your gross principal income in the family, and how do you replace that? How do you bring in a similar level or a reasonable level of income to replace that? Now, generally, you have two ideas that you can follow. One is if you're a trade profession and you do job A. So, for example, if you're an electrician and you get fired as an electrician, in your local region where you live, what would be the other opportunities for electricians to follow? Would you be able to earn an income as an electrician outside of where you are right now in your local area without having to make any other consequential decisions? Map that out. What does that look like? Who's hiring? What are the industries? What does it look like? What are the trends? And you keep up with that. It's actually part of your monthly preparedness review that we recommend in our video course and in our online book, is that we do that, right? Is that we continue to go forward every month with a 30-minute review of what we're doing. Now, that can encompass your entire preparedness plan, your entire strategy, etc., which we do recommend, but this economic is part of it, and it gives you a chance to just scope out, has anything changed in the area? The second part of it is, where could you go keeping the same line of business to earn an income? And this happens in the trades a lot. When there's a downturn in the area where you may live, etc., you realize that, hey, listen, I can't stay here, but I can get a job as an electrician up north at a project or at an offshore project or some other way. I can temporarily relocate myself, not my family, but relocate myself to another place. You think about that. You scope it out. You understand what that would look like, because the whole point of preparedness is future proofing, right? What we're suggesting to you is it is a very good strategy to ask these questions when you have an income, not try to figure out these answers when you no longer have an income and you, like everybody else that got laid off, are all at the same time trying to do the same work. So why not be well ahead of everybody else as they're trying to figure out what just happened and they're Googling jobs for electricians? You're already making phone calls to people you've already pre-identified. This is preparedness. It's about setting up the primary input to your economic system, which is your income, and setting that up for a bit of preparedness protection. The other part of looking at your income is to say, okay, if I can't do this job anymore, because remember, for example, if you were a job that required you to carry heavy lumber, like you were a general laborer on a construction site, making a decent income, and you get a leg injury. We'll talk about insurance in a bit. And you can no longer physically execute the job for which you're trained and earn an employment. Is that the time where you're going to start pivoting and thinking about what do I do next? Our strategy suggests to you the answer to that is not. So if I was to pose the question to you, if you were no longer physically able to execute the profession for which you work right now, what would you do as your next best option? How do I train for that? What are the qualifications for it? What's the training period? And how long would it take me to be up and running and earning an income? The reason that time frame is important is because that informs the next part of your economic preparedness, which is your contingency funds. Now, everybody says 3, 6, 5 months, whatever. Great. None of them are wrong. Our strategy here is we recommend basing your emergency savings funds off of your plan. So if your plan is to pivot from your current employment to this new line of business, and you've estimated that it will take you 3 months to be up and running to earning a reasonable income in that field, then you've just told yourself that 3 months is an appropriate safety timeline. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 1 month, maybe it's a couple of weeks, but why not build your emergency fund off of a plan that you create? You have told yourself that this is the appropriate amount of money that you need based upon the very work that you intend to do. It's logical, it's intelligent, and it follows a process. So now you think about what you have is, hey, so I'll use the electrician example all the time because I love the tradespeople. They're incredible. I'm an electrician. I realize that if I lose my current position as an electrician, I'm going to look around the local area for other opportunities as an electrician. Then if that's not work, I'm going to look at external temporary move job sites, other places in the country or around the world that I could temporarily earn an income as an electrician until there's something to come back to where I live. The other option that I as an electrician have to occur, that if for some reason I can no longer execute the function of an electrician and can't do that anymore, what is it that I would turn to and pivot to? How many months is it going to take me to be fully up and running and earning an income in that? That informs my economic protection. That informs, because it's the primary income for my family, I need to put some type of savings and protection in there. And then I go about setting up a methodology to build those savings over time. Remember, most of us don't have 4 months of money set aside in our checking account. Oh, I'll just move this I'll take this $17,000 from my checking and I'll move it over to my savings. It's a plan and a process. Our argument to you, our offering to you is, what worked for me is to figure out what that pivot plan is and then to have that pivot plan inform my financial security plan. And then I move on. And all of those things that I just talked about are part of the checks that I do every month. So I only review, and we tell this in our online course, in our book, is I only revisit my preparedness plan once a month. It takes me about a half hour, 45 minutes at the most, once a month. Anything more than that and you're doing it wrong. And I just go back and I go through all of these steps of my trifecta of preparedness plans, the third one being the economic plan. And I review it to make sure that everything that I have in there holds true. It's still valid. This is still how I would like to do it. Nothing is significantly changed. The training plan is still the same. A couple of clicks on Google, things like that. You're easily done. Shut the book, go back and have yourself a great life because you've done that. That's the initial set of setting yourself up for success in economic preparedness. Now you have to think about your employer. And it's important to understand this, and we'll get into entrepreneurship next, but you work for somebody else. Understanding the economic conditions in which that business operates, understanding the economic health of that, and then understanding the preparedness level of the company for which you work influences how fast you may have to execute the previous thing that we talked about. It's very important to understand the environment around you in the world of preparedness, right? Now, whether you're considering natural disasters, whether you're considering political crisis, familial, cultural, ideological problems, or as we talk about today, economic conditions, pay attention to the tea leaves, as the saying goes. Understand how external decisions and external initiatives by all levels of government, so political does influence the economic. What is the political agenda of the current government, and how might that affect your industry? The reason being is, so goes your industry, so goes your employment. And if you're specific, so if you're a banker or you're into social media web development, as government changes the regulations and the framework for how that business operates in your country, that's going to influence positively or negatively the outlook of continued employment, right? So these are external things that influence your ability to earn an economic income, to earn a salary from a business. And I learned this this was early 1990s when I bought my first new car from a Chevy dealership in Trenton, Ontario. And I still remember the salesman, great guy. We were having a chat about it. I had never bought a car before. I bought a two-door Chevy Cavalier, a 5-speed, no radio. I was trying to save every penny I could. So the darn thing didn't have a radio. I'll tell you about that road trip someday. I drove from Trenton, Ontario to Halifax, Nova Scotia nonstop, about 16 hours with no radio, singing out loud with my dog hiding on the back floor thinking I was crazy. But he talked about the tea leaves. He saw the inventory changes on the lot. The lower number of inbound newer vehicles was informing him that the company's decisions were telling him that they were in financial difficulty. Because the company could not afford to buy a whole fleet or order a new fleet of vehicles to fill the lot, and only a select number of vehicles were coming in, and other GM dealerships, other Chevy dealerships were in fact doing quite well in the area with their stock and inventory. He could see the writing on the wall. So he already talked about how he was looking to, within, a month or so, he was intending on leaving this job for somewhere else because he knew the tea leaves told him that there were coming significant economic changes. And in the end, about 6 months later, that dealership closed. And all the employees, right down the maintainers and everybody, all got fired, right? Understand the economic environment in which you operate. But be careful against the thinking that you're amazingly and magically insulated. And I hear this a lot from members of the military. I hear it from public servants who, here in Canada, they call it indeterminate position, or otherwise known as cash for life. People think they can't get fired tomorrow because they're on an indeterminate government contract, or because they're a full-time member of the regular military force. You can be fired tomorrow. Service is not required. Your union contracts outline exactly what your severance package could be. Don't well yourself into this thought that for somehow you're insulated from being fired. It's the same as a tenured professor. I hear this on my academic side. Tenured professors think they can't get fired, and that's hilarious. The position can be found redundant to requirements and you can be removed, right? We're seeing it happening now in the academic space because here in Canada, we've done a great deal of restriction on the number of international students, which has significantly changed the funding model for universities. One option the universities have is to reduce the number of tenured professors, and they can do that. See you bye. You're not required anymore. You did nothing wrong. You had tenure. You thought you were protected for life, and now your tenure hasn't been removed because they can't do that. But what they can do is just eliminate the position that you occupy, and it's no longer required. And then your agreement and your union agreement and everything would have all of the severance package you'd be entitled to. But just don't think you're somehow in a protected status organization or a protected job that won't be hit by the next major event, because that would be illogical and that would be setting you and your family up for failure. So understanding that, you have to look at the environment in which you operate. Understand the influences that may change the systems that help or hinder your company's ability to make money, right? And another thing is there is an element to what is the current strategy and plan for your business. Now, this came to fruition in a lot of people in the pandemic, and people got some pretty uncomfortable wake-up calls, right? So let's look at two different scenarios. One scenario is your building burns down, right? Maybe it from a wildfire, maybe it was just a stupid accident. But say you're a Class A mechanic and you work at an auto body shop or a car dealership. It burns down. You didn't do anything wrong. You were at home having a beer on your back deck because you have a great family and a great life. You love your career, and your place of work burned down. What exactly is your boss's strategy? What do they intend to do when that happens? They're probably going to rebuild and they have insurance. It's going to take them a year and a half to insure. What is their plan for their employees? Now, the 95% solution is going to be simply lay off all the employees and then rehire for the positions when the building reopens. Or they'll farm out their maintenance to another deal. They'll figure out something, but you need to be asking those questions. What is your business, your owner's strategy, your corporate strategy that you live in for those type of calamitous events, right? What would be that? The other option is, when we saw this in the pandemic, what if the government imposes restrictions on the business that causes your business to no longer be able to operate? Is your business intending to keep paying you or fire you? Now, a lot of fabulous, wonderful people doing great work at healthy corporations were fired because of government restrictions in the pandemic, and these people didn't earn an income. And very, very quickly, what we saw is the call for and the answer from the government, especially here in Canada, to pay people immediately money. People weren't ready to navigate the shortfall. The vast majority of people who were laid off needed some type of immediate government intervention to be able to pay their bills. They had no preparedness strategy whatsoever. The 5% solution to that is, you have a great boss who loves their employees and has set aside a cash burn, right? They figure that my labor costs me so much per month. I'm going to set aside 3 months worth of labor costs in a separate secure account so that if the business is shut down, it's burnt down or something like that, I can burn that cash and pay my employees the regular salary for a period of time because I think that's a good thing to do. That's probably also really important for you to know with your business, right? So by gaining this information, what you're able to do is understand when these events happen, as unlikely as they may be, the context in which your boss and your company intends to operate. Now, it doesn't mean they will, which is why I always default to the original strategy we talked about as having that pivot plan and having your own personal security funds to cover the time to pivot to your alternate income. But you also can inform that bigger plan by understanding what your boss is likely to do from what they say. Now, it may not turn out that way, and that again is beyond your control. So if your boss says, I'm going to cash burn you, I love you all, you're wonderful, I'm going to pay you for 3 months if there was an accident, and you take that to heart and set aside no funds, and then it happens and your boss says, sorry, I can't do that, you're now in the lurch, you have no money, and it's not their fault. It's your fault for not building a redundancy or contingency, right? Again, part of preparedness is all about accepting personal responsibility for your outcomes. It's not that people did things to you and that you're a victim and you're oppressed. It's that you failed to put a strategy in place to deal with actions that are beyond your control. That's what we're talking about in economic preparedness. Now, let's switch the conversation over to the other part of society for a second, the entrepreneurs, the individuals who have struck out on their own and decided that the only path to becoming wealthy, which is absolutely true, you can never become wealthy by assuming that a salary and receiving a salary is a good thing. Now, I worked 28 years for Her Majesty in the Canadian Army on a salary. Nothing wrong with it. It's a life I chose. But I also understood I could not become wealthy by doing that. It's an absolute impossibility. If you accept a salary, you can't be wealthy. Now, if you're really good with money, you can become rich. But rich is not wealthy. And I talked about this in a previous podcast. And I talked to a couple of experts in the field because I'm a budding economist. I taught economics for a couple of years at university, basic level economics, nothing crazy. But really, when we think about it, rich begins at $20,000 cash per month above fixed costs. So if you think to consider yourself rich in Canada, think about you're going to be earning $20,000 net past your fixed costs. So if your mortgage, your car payment, and all that, say it was $5,000 a month all in, that's your fixed expenses. If you made that, you could live a very simple, basic, comfortable life, right? To be rich, you'd be somebody earning about $25,000 net, right? That $20,000 gets you into the rich. If you want to be wealthy, you're taking home 6 figures a month of net free money that's unencumbered. That's a different world. If you want to become wealthy, that can only come from being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. There's no other way to get there. But understanding that you may want to get there, or that you are working as an entrepreneur to try to get some type of structure in your life, you understand that there are certain rules, and I'm a big fan of the 30-40-30 rule. And this is something, and I apologize up front, I forget who was the big thinker who put this out. So when you run an entrepreneurial venture, as I do here at Preparedness Labs Incorporated, you think 30-40-30. So 30% is payroll, 40% is expenses, and 30% is retained capital, right? Or profit. So basically, if I make $100, my salary can't be more than $30. The cost to make that $100 can't exceed $40. And that leaves me with $30 profit that I keep in retained capital, or shareholders' equity, which just means I keep it in the company's bank account. I don't do anything with it. That's a general rule. I like that rule. Now, as an entrepreneur, you have so many other issues related to preparedness. And I'm happy to announce that Preparedness Labs Incorporated, my company, is launching a new course starting in January for solopreneurs. And this is a business continuity / emergency preparedness course for people who they're pretty much on their own. They're running everything themselves, and they're just not sure how to insulate it against exogenous shocks. The same as we talk at length here, over 300 episodes on personal preparedness. We've built this course. It'll be 199 Canadian and a lot less American, available on our website, www.preparednesslabs.ca. And this course is going to set you up for success. Again, it's not a PDF form filler because I don't believe that works. It's telling you all of the ideas and strategies that you need to put into place so that all the exogenous shocks that could happen to your business, you've taken the most reasonable precautions you can to insulate it to the greatest extent possible. Because remember, zero harm is not an option. You can't prevent you can't prevent your company from being affected. You can significantly mitigate the level of those effects and the effect of that ability to knock you off your normal operations. In other words, you protect your company's ability to continue operations irrespective of your political, cultural, ideological, economic, familial, and natural disasters that could all happen out of the 5 areas of influence that we talk about on this podcast. So that course is coming out in January. You'll see all kinds of media. There's going to be some paid ads about it. We're really looking forward to putting that together because solopreneurs, if you hire a business continuity professional, and there's lots of them out there, and I wrote my master's thesis on business continuity for small independent businesses, they're probably going to cost you into the 4 figures. So at least $1,000, if not $2,500 to build a business continuity plan. So we decided that, listen, a $200 course, 7-lesson course, about an hour worth of lecture and videos, and an associated workbook that you can use would be a great training element for somebody who doesn't want to spend $2,500 to get a business continuity report, because that thing just sits on the shelf. But what we up the ante on top of that is we're now going to attach to it a monthly webinar. So you'll get together with all the other solopreneurs and business owners who enroll in the course. And every month we're going to get together in that famous webinar 30-30 format. So 30 minutes of me talking about the latest advancements in business continuity in the last 30 days. I got to keep you on the cutting edge of what's going on in the industry so you don't have to worry about it. And then the last 30 minutes is all about Q&A from the business owners about how do we maintain preparedness, how do we maintain insulation, what's the government thinking of doing, all of these things along that line. So it's great for you, for a solopreneur out there. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have to think about all of the ways that you can be impacted. So not just economically, but your entire logistical system. The entire thing. And now this is something we're going to talk about in the entrepreneurial course, but I'm going to offer this here for free because I think it's really worth it. Is the number one skill you can have as a business owner is your ability to map your business out in a visual sense, right? So whether I'm a whiteboard guy, I love whiteboards. I'm staring at my whiteboard in my podcast studio here. Or you can write it down on a piece of paper or do it in some online format. And we're gonna show you how to do it in an online software package. You lay out your business processes start to finish, right from your make or buy decision. So are you buying something and reselling it, or you are making something? It doesn't matter whether it's a good or service, all the way to returns and disposal. And then every single connected process from accounting to HR to everything involved in your business. You need to be able to visualize this sucker from start to finish, because you have no way of understanding the exposure to exogenous shocks that your business has until you can demonstrate an ability to visually express all of the steps of your business. It's simply impossible for you to do that. We're going to show you how to do it in the course, which is why we're so excited about this opportunity. I'm going to show you how to do it. But when you lay that out, because then you can sit back with your favorite beverage and lean back in your office chair, stare at your whiteboard, and start to ponder how the outside world could F with your business. And I don't swear because I don't want an explicit level, but it's really that simple. How can the outside world F with your business and how you intend to do business? And then knowing that these are the 47 different ways the world can mess up my business, what are the mitigation measures I can take against each one of those 47? You're a business owner. There's nobody else to do it for you, right? That's both the brilliance and the saddle responsibility that goes along with choosing to be an entrepreneur. Is I am everybody, right? I'm it at this business. Now, when I do a lot of research projects and stuff like that, I do subcontract out to researchers, but I'm it here at Preparedness Labs Incorporated, right? We have a small podcast team that helps out with Inside My Canoe Head, sure, but reality is I'm everybody from HR to accounting to marketing to creating ads to doing digital. Like, you do everything in the business, right? How are you going to add business continuity to it? So that's what we show you in the course. But you have to look at those threats. So if there's 41 threats that exist to your business, how do you go about mitigating those? How do you put that strategy in? Now, you hire a professional. They're going to follow a standard business continuity format. They're going to write you a really important, useful report that's going to talk about your major business avenues, your major business systems, how to get them up and running, what's the priority, crisis communication plans, all of that. I get it. We're going to cover that in the course. And it's going to be for $200 Canadian versus $2,500 for a business continuity report. And you're going to get access to a community of solopreneurs. It doesn't get any better than this. Anyhow, I'm going to get off that soapbox for a second and return to the idea of an entrepreneur. It's a brilliant, amazing life, right? Now, yes, I waited until I had a government pension. And I have a reasonably small, it's not amazing, it's just a small, comfortable little government pension from my years of service in the military, but I'm out there carving it. I'm giving it a shot and trying to be an entrepreneur to see as a life challenge to myself, whether, as we would say in the Army, whether I got the parts to make this thing work, right? Do I have the intestinal fortitude to create something out of thin air and make it profitable and then see if I can take it to 6 figures a month? Imagine your life right now if you were earning net 6 figures a month. Your company was grossing $100,000 a month. And if you follow the 30-40-30 rule, you were paying yourself $30,000 salary a month, the equivalent of a $360,000 a year salary, plus a whole bunch of really cool business expenses. What does that world look like for you, right? And I've had this conversation with a couple, even in one presentation that I made to a group. There's absolutely nothing stopping people from being an entrepreneur and being wealthy other than themselves, right? It's that old adage, everybody likes the view from the top, but nobody likes to climb. Everybody's jealous of what a millionaire has, but nobody is jealous of what they had to do to get there, right? So the thing is that the path is wide open for you to be an entrepreneur should you want to do the work and the grind. Most people don't. That's great. So whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a salaried worker, economic preparedness is essential because it really fuels your ability to be consistently earning an income to provide the life that you and your family want, wrapped in a blanket of insulation. But that second tertiary benefit is it really reduces your external stress and anxiety. And in today's world, so many people out there are struggling with and trying to manage significant mental health stress because they're worried about things that have not yet happened. That's exactly what anxiety is, right? Anxiety is worrying about things that have yet to occur and are likely not going to occur, right? And stress is really worried about things that have already happened. So let's just eliminate the two of those to the greatest extent possible by putting in a robust economic preparedness plan so that you and your family can navigate the things that are beyond your control. So as I said at the beginning, we have a big event coming up in our awesome friends in the United States of America. And it's not that the Trump presidency is bad. It's the Trump presidency is going to be different. And different means there may be some changes in how your business operates. And if you're a salaried worker inside a business in Canada that does a great deal of work in the United States of America, you need to be asking some pretty pointed questions right now. How ready is your company for a change in leadership in the United States of America? Again, it's not bad. It's different, right? If the government decides to put in tariffs on your Canadian, does that influence your business? And if that collapses your business, where are you going to earn an income in February, my friend? This is the point of economic preparedness and thinking about the greater environment in which you live. Understanding that there are all kinds of actors who have influence on how you earn an income. Your strategy is not to go out and change the actors because we can't do that. But what you can do is understand what are the most likely actions they'll take, the influences against how you earn an income, and then you build a preparedness plan. And guess what, my friends? Other than enrolling in our incredible courses, it's free. It's absolutely free. Everything I talked about on this podcast, all of the actions that you have to take to build a robust economic preparedness plan for you, your family, and your business, it's free. Preparedness is a lifestyle. It's a philosophy. It's a theoretical framework. It is not an expense item on your family budget. I'm dead serious. And I wrote something else on Substack this week talking about how, last month, talking about how economic barriers to preparedness is a construct of the state. When the state tells you you need to buy things to become prepared and you don't have the money, the state has created the barrier, not preparedness. And that's part of the difficulty we struggle with in preparedness education is that the government is likely at this point one of the obstacles we need to overcome in trying to provide preparedness education to the public. So hopefully today's was value. Hopefully I tweaked a little bit of interest in the entrepreneurial world. And if you're a solopreneur out there, drop over to our website, www.preparednesslabs.ca. and look for the solopreneur. It's right in the middle of the page. It's not a long page. We keep it very succinct. There's a learn more button. Click on that. It'll take you to the landing page for the solopreneur course, tell you everything you need to know about it, what the benefits are, and you can make an informed decision. But trust me, this is less than 10% of the cost of getting a business continuity professional. And they're amazing people. I love them. Some great friends that have business continuity consultants, and they may not like this, but listen, when you're a solopreneur, you only have so much room in the budget and time. So why not help people out? Why not provide a service? And why not build an entrepreneurial venture myself? So thanks again for joining us this week on Inside My Canoe Head. I hope you're enjoying 2025, and I hope you start figuring out what your personal pivot plan will be, because guess what? I think you and your family are worth it. Take care. Stay safe.